Well, hey, podcast listeners, thanks for joining in with us for another episode of our Becoming Better podcast. Well, today, Jason, Corey, and myself, Josh, we jump into this week's sermon. We spend a little bit of time talking about our crazy hot takes. There's a lot of laughter. So for those of you who fast forward at times, man, you're not going to want to miss just the craziness of this conversation. Hopefully it brings you a little laughter too during your week, and a little bit of joy. But we discuss our sermon from this week, try to answer a question around some clarity on what Jesus was talking about. Reminding ourselves just also of the hope that we have in Christ and all of the beautiful things there. As always, if you haven't yet listened to the sermon, to help this podcast make a little bit more sense, the best thing to do is go ahead and push pause, jump up into our sermons in this same podcast, listen to this past Sundays, and then jump back into the podcast. As always, man, we're really grateful that you listen, grateful for our listeners, grateful for your questions. Again, just as a reminder, if you ever have questions, you can submit them right on our website. Just go to quadcity.church/podcast and drop your questions. Anytime, even if you ask during the week, we'll pick them up next week. So we want to be as helpful. This is a tool we want to use so that we can keep becoming better disciples of Jesus. Again, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoy. Let's dive in. Hey, everybody.
What's going on?
Happy Monday, everybody. Nate does something different. You just messed up the intro. I don't know. That felt weird.
I don't know what he does.
I don't know.
Dude, I ain't been on the podcast in like 4 weeks.
Well, welcome back. This is the sultry voice of Josh Garrett.
Here we are today. All right. Okay.
And Corey's back.
And Corey's
again.
back.
Yeah. Sorry, Jason. You got to settle for Corey again.
It's true.
Love it. Oh,
it is true.
Amen.
By the way, let's be honest, though. You didn't hear anything from me on the podcast because you didn't listen to it. I got narked out by your wife, is what I hear.
I'm catching up still.
Okay.
I'm still catching up.
Okay.
All right. Ready?
Yes, let's go.
All right. So, what are some of your all's crazy hot takes?
Hot takes.
Hot takes.
We got plenty.
We got plenty.
Okay, so here's... You want to go, Corey?
No, I don't want to go. Okay. I don't want to go. I'll get in trouble. I'd rather... You go ahead first, Jason.
Okay. I had one I shared, I think it was with Nate, in the tech booth one night. Josh knows this. We're in a lot of meetings together, and I just have random thoughts all the time, just weird things that I think about. It's just odd. And so I thought about, it came to me, like, what is the one piece of clothing that you would never want to borrow from someone else?
Their underwear.
You would think, but let's be, you throw underwear you throw some boxers in a washing machine. It's not that big a deal. What about you, Josh?
Socks, bro. I can't wear nobody's socks, man. That's just
over underwear.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't gonna say what you said, but like, like even my oldest he's like started wearing my footies, and I'm like, oh, bro, I don't know if I want those socks back. You can just keep them. And that's my own flesh and blood. I'm 50%, he's 50% of me. And I'm like, I don't want your dirty toes all up in my socks, man.
Okay.
It's hot sweatiness up in there. Oh, man, my socks.
I'm going to give you one that is worse than both of those. Here's the one. You ready?
Okay.
You should never, ever, ever borrow somebody's belt.
Why is that bad?
Here's why it's bad. You ready?
I'm thinking.
You want to go?
Well, no, go ahead. I'm trying to think why it would be bad.
Never, ever. Well, let me ask this question. Do you think it's important that people would wash their hands after they go to the potty?
I do think it's an
Why?
important thing. Well, based off our 8 o'clock crowd, there's a lot of dribbling in the men's restroom.
Great. You know what never happens? ever that somebody goes and washes their hand and then clips their belt. Every time,
I'm thankful for that. As somebody who walks into bathrooms.
I'm just saying, every time somebody goes, I thought about this at the airport. Like you go to the airport and you're in the bathroom stall. Somebody's got their drawers down on the floor with their belt hanging on and they get up, they buckle their belt, and then they go wash their hands. And unlike your underwear and unlike your socks, when was the last time you ever disinfected a belt? You don't wash a belt. It's just...
I only wear a belt on Sunday, so...
But every time you go to the bathroom, you touch your belt with your dirty hands, and you've never once washed that belt.
It's still, though, secondhand exposure to the grossness. Whereas underwear is first-hand exposure.
But you throw the underwear in the washing machine. You bleach it.
You bleaching your drawers?
when you had the tidy whities, you used to do that.
You bleaching your drawers?
I'm just saying you can wash it, but you don't wash your belt. It's just walking around with 10 years worth of bathroom cooties on your belt, and you've never washed it ever. I'm just saying, you think about it, you don't ever want to touch another man's belt. You just on the airport toilet floor that belt has been. Your jeans, you've washed them.
Why is your touching the floor?
Listen, because
I'm trying to think
there's dudes
you like flapped over.
No, I'm just saying there's dudes you walk through and they've literally got their pants around their ankles.
No, I understand, but yeah, I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just saying,
but if you belt's not touching, if you're wearing a belt correctly, it's not like your belt. If I borrowed your belt, it would be touching my skin.
That's true.
How are you putting it on?
It's touching my pants, which then will get washed.
How are you putting it on?
Well, it's with my hands, but hopefully I wash my hands enough to. I think you've got a good point. They're grosser than anybody would think.
Yes. Way more than any other accessory. Yes. Way more than any other piece of clothing that we would put on. The belt is the most gross. That's all I'm saying.
I'd still rather borrow your belt than your underwear. But you make a decent point.
This is a valid point. Corey, you got any hot takes you want to share?
I think this is just... I got plenty of hot takes, okay? But... The backing into parking spots.
Here we go.
It's just, and I know so many of our listeners probably back into parking spots. I don't think you're a bad person for backing into parking spots.
When we are not on the mic, he for sure thinks you are a less than valuable human being.
It just doesn't. First of all,
we're laughing because all we got to do is just throw this out and Corey's blood pressure shoots to 215.
It just doesn't make as much sense. There are scenarios where you can back into a parking spot for good reasons. Okay? There's certain scenarios, but it just doesn't make sense. It is, and this isn't, everybody wants to say, oh, Corey, it's just because you can't reverse.
Exactly.
You're not a good driver. That's not what it is. Jason, I reverse every time when I was at your house for sermon planning. I'd reverse down your driveway. All right, I'm fine. It just is counterproductive. It's a tiny, narrow. We don't have time for this. We don't have time for this. I could start asking. I could go through my normal spiel, but we don't have time for it.
Come on, do it in 3 minutes.
All right,
give me the 3 minute
Jason.
Spiel.
I just want real. Just give me answers.
Okay.
All right. What is easier to do? Drive forward or drive backwards? No. What's easier?
Drive forward.
Okay, thank you. What is easier? Where's an easier area to drive into? A wide open parking lot or a narrow parking spot?
I don't understand the question because the parking spots are in the parking lot.
An open lane for somebody. What would be easier to?
Here, let me just...
An open lane or a tighter spot that is made specifically just for one car to get through?
I think they would be the same. If my car can fit through it, then they're both easy.
when you back into a parking spot, in Corey's humble opinion,
Okay.
when you back into a parking spot, you are combining a difficult way of driving with a more difficult, with a tighter spot of driving into. Whereas I think overall, it is going to end up taking longer. It is less efficient overall. I know it will be easier for you to get out of that parking spot. At the end of the day, it'll be easier to get out. I get that. But it will take you more time to back into a narrow spot than it would have taken you on the back end to back out into the more open
See, now I would
lane.
disagree with that because I don't think that's true. Again, it depends. Every situation is a little bit different. But for me, when I'm driving in on Sunday morning and I swing down and I back in, I typically back into the spot that I walk in. It does not take me any more time than if I were to back out of the parking spot that I'm in. And where I park, actually, it would take a little longer. But that's neither here nor there.
Takes a lot of. I see a lot of 3-point turns when people try to back into their spots.
You don't have to tell me. When it comes to church parking lot parking, I have more hours logged watching people park than all y'all.
Bro, when you're on sabbatical last year, I was like, I ain't doing this no more. I couldn't watch it. I just had to turn I gotta close my eyes. I couldn't do it.
It is fun. It is. And
I will say you can see the line. So I'm not a backer in either, but I will say backing in does allow you to use both your side views to see the lines all the way back. Like in my truck, once I turn, I usually can't see the passenger side lines. Because I just can't see them because my truck is so big, right? So like when I'm backing in the side views, I can see the lines all the way back, right? It's not I still think it's ridiculous. I just whip in and park real quick. But I'm notoriously like, I don't care if I'm a little crooked or kind of like my wife, she gets so mad. She's like, pull out, straighten up. I'm like, it's fine. It's not hurting anybody. Let's go. But I will just say you can see the lines in both side view mirrors. I can't see over the passenger door. I just can't see that. I can't see that right side line all the way up, and I can see it in my side views if I'm backing in. And I'm not a backer in. I'm just saying that could be an argument of why.
I guess.
So
I just think of the width.
I will give you one example that I just watched yesterday. So again, from the 8 o'clock, between the 8 o'clock and the 9:30 is the tightest window that we have in our parking lot here at the church. And so when you think about that upper parking lot, the driveway comes down and you have parking literally on both sides of that driveway coming down off of that top parking lot. And everybody who came into the 8 o'clock, all the parking on the right hand side against the wall is all taken. So nobody's parking on those, but they pull in facing the church to the left. And after the 8, seeing those people try to back out into the traffic that's coming down the hill into the 9:30 service, and they have to do a 2 or 3 to get themselves out and into the flow of traffic and go around, it backs up the entire thing. So if they were just straight out and going, it would be a lot easier. So had they backed in...
Hold on. Had they backed in, though, all the traffic trying to get in to begin with would have had to wait.
No, because, again, you have more space at the 8. More time.
Maybe the 8 o'clock.
That's what I'm saying. So if they would have backed in when they got at the 8, they would have easily been able to pull out and not made traffic stop for them to have to back out into the lane and then get going. So, again,
do we want to talk about the people backing into their spots at the 9:30 though?
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great,
especially big trucks, man. That's what them big vehicles. There you go. You can, man. You just got to go to the top and find that spot that's a little far away. You just kind of got to go get there.
Listen, I don't think the audience cares about our problem solving, but I do think it's funny to get Corey riled up about parking. So for all of our listeners, just have the conversation with Corey. Just tell him why he should embrace backing in. Especially with cars that have a rear view camera. You can just zip right in.
Yeah, but they don't. Just zip right in.
All right, here's mine. I don't even know if it's a hot take. I haven't figured out what I like better. I haven't figured out if roundabouts are actually more efficient than stoplights and stops. I just don't know, right? I mean, I don't mind them, but I don't know if they're like this genius way to do things. But some people swear by them and some people hate them.
I would rather have the roundabout.
Okay.
It so depends. I'm not against them.
Yeah, but some people
I think
are
of
like,
Sedona. If you're trying to get through Sedona, like visiting there, that's brutal. If you're coming from one of those ways,
like
one
the
side.
Chino roundabouts. Boy, there's like 5 in Chino.
If you go over the mountain into the Verde Valley coming across
Oh, my
89A,
goodness.
I'm sorry. Yeah, 89, whatever it is. You're dropping down into the Verde Valley from Jerome, and you coming in, there's like, I don't know, it feels like there's 15 of them.
It is. That is unbelievable. Oh, I'm with you, Jason. That's horrible.
And the GPS is like, take the second exit.
Now, that is
I'm
annoying if
What?
you have those
I'm not
ones.
exiting. So I will say probably turning left, they make them safer. But yeah, some people swear by them. Some people don't. Just curious what your thoughts are.
I would rather
on
have the roundabout.
than a stoplight.
Yeah.
So you remember in Lexington? Well, I don't know if you remember. They started changing how you turn off like interstates, like the left-hand turn. Actually, they redesigned the traffic so when you go left, it actually you're in the oncoming traffic. They redesigned how you do all for some
There's
of this.
something double diamond, I think is what they call it.
Yeah, it's just a lot. I felt like it was a lot better, but it is a little weird. And then like in Texas, you've been there. It's super long on ramps. Remember, and you have like 4 exits off of the on ramps, just to help people. So it's curious, like how they try to limit accidents. And I think that's why roundabouts exist.
The absolute worst, and I'm sure you had to deal with them. The Michigan left. Do y'all know anything about the Michigan left?
No.
Nah, bro.
I figured you were up in Minnesota there, Corey, that they might have had some fell over. Google that up. The Michigan left is you go to a stop sign or go to a stoplight. You don't turn left at the stoplight. Like you can't, like picture the regular T.
Oh, dude.
You don't get to turn left. You have to go
do a roundabout.
Go through
and
then do a U-turn.
That's Ohio has those.
They're the worst.
I hate them.
They are the dumbest thing ever.
I think they're ridiculous. I hate having to do. Oh, jeez, it makes me mad just thinking about that.
Oh, so you make a right and then get into the left lane and then make a U-turn.
So you can't. So you can't cross across. So
You can't
go across traffic and make a left. So you have to
at
turn
the intersection.
Right, you have to turn right into it and make a U-turn and go. And it's like, well, this is just dumb.
So I'm looking at one that has 2 lanes. So you would have to pretty quickly make that right turn and get into the left lane, then make a left into the U-turn
So the one we were on
spot.
was 4. So you had to go across 2 lanes into the U-turn lanes to like go to a gas station right over, because you couldn't even. So how it was in Ohio, you couldn't even go straight across. I don't think they cut that off. It's
Many of them,
wild.
you would just go straight through the intersection and then do a roundabout and then turn right.
Yes.
That's how you had
Is
to do
it good for traffic?
Who knows why
I
they
think
do
coming
it?
across
It's the worst.
like multi-lane divides, there's a lot of accidents, right? Because you're turning
Sure.
across 3 lanes of traffic going 60, right? And people are missing lights, and so this way you're never going straight across interstates. You're not turning left across the pretty busy. But I didn't know they were called Of course, it's called the Michigan left turn.
It's called the Michigan left.
Well, Ohio
It's-
does it, which is hilarious because they just despise one another.
They
So
do.
that's fantastic. I didn't know that's what it's called. I'm with you. Yep, I agree. The worst thing.
They
ever.
are the worst.
Ugh. You've never experienced that.
I don't think so, no. There weren't a lot of those in Minnesota.
Well, if you see us Sunday, feel free to
Share your hot takes.
with us.
And don't offer a belt.
And don't share your belt with us. All right. Well, let's jump into the weekend. So Jason was back in the saddle again. Normally, again, just as a reminder, probably most of our podcast knows, but Jason generally takes off in June, and just is off the platform, just as in being a normal church attender like some of the rest of us here. And so it's good for him. We got to hear a lot ton of voices this year. Obviously, Corey preached. David got to preach last week, which was really cool. I know it's something our church didn't get to see, but Jason was back. And what, dude? So I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I said, like I'm sitting there listening to the sermon, 2 or 3 times, 3 times to be exact. And I go, I think Jason's favorite person in the Bible is John the Baptist. Dude, you are him. Like, nothing fancy, no miracle. Like, when you said that, I was like, that's what Jason did. You just telling the truth. Come in with the axes at the tree. I was like, it is like, not in a bad way, but it's like, you just get up and you preach the word and you do the thing, and it's like, here's what it is, man. I was like,
You saying nobody comes here for somebody in fancy clothes?
we ain't probably playing the pipe, right? We're not dancing. No, but I was like, if it's not his, because like the passion he speaks, I was like, this is like low key. This has got to be like his like favorite Bible character again, because he's a normal dude. Well, besides the weird stuff, like you're not weird out in the wilderness, but I'm like, dude, there are no miracles, nothing fancy. He literally just preached the word, nothing more, nothing less. Said the thing to Herod that got him in jail.
Yep,
and had those feelings. And again, it was like, and I think people know, right? The like, man, is this it? Is Jesus the one? Like that doubt, right? And Jesus and his kindness, like you said. But I was like that's who Jay is. He is the John the Baptist. I'm just gonna preach the word, man, and nothing fancy. We ain't doing no miracles here. Like we're, So it was just cool. I kind of put it together. I was sharing that with somebody else, and they went, "Yeah, I could see that. He just is up there calling people to repent." So.
And I could see him eating some locusts every once in a while. I could see that.
Wearing some camel's hair. Yeah. But yeah, man, that's who I thought of when I was thinking of you, man. Just that you get up there and you preach and you say the thing no one else wants to. I'm sure there's a lot of other prophets who guys like, you need to go call out Herod Antipas. No, I ain't doing that. I'm going to go to jail. I ain't saying that thing. We were just talking about that today. Saying these things no matter what. So that's my that was my conclusion from the weekend. Is I could see this. So what about you, Corey? What'd you think?
It was cool to see it. Jason seemed just excited to be back up there. I mean, the whole time, like your energy was high. It was good to have you back up there.
we didn't really.
We didn't stop.
There were a lot of levels up and down. Were there?
No, it was stayed pretty steady.
I had to take a nap. I'll be honest.
We was ready to go.
I was like, it just seemed like you were genuinely excited to get back up there. So glad to have a lead pastor that misses preaching when he doesn't get to. So
yeah, it was cool. It was a great text. Obviously, finishing out this story of John. And this is really it, honestly, isn't it, for John?
Yeah. I don't know that he shows up anywhere else.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think he's in Luke anymore. But and so he's a pretty leading character. And then just that idea, I wasn't in sermon planning this week. I read a little bit of the sermon because I was hosting and doing that kind of stuff. But what's interesting is I was telling the team this morning, I was trying to figure out, oh, my mic is cutting out. There we go. I was like, did he write the whole interaction knowing that our church people weren't going to respond like they needed to? Or was it like in the moment you were like, come on, like what are we doing, people?
It was B for sure.
Was it really?
Oh, yeah.
Because it felt, I was like, I think you knew like you're actually not going to get this to the level you need to get this. I need to keep saying it so that you walk away for sure being like, man, this is like, you know what I mean? Like because you know these people, you've been doing this for 18 years, right? Like you're like, oh, our church, they're not going to get this. You're actually not going to get it to the level I need you to get this. So I'm going to keep like digging in a way.
Yeah.
So
I was hoping we'd get there quicker. I'll be honest. I was real hopeful we were going to get there quicker.
But I was like,
my 9:30 crowd left me hanging. I was just flapping in the wind up there. They did. The 8 o'clock finally got there. At my 9:30, y'all was a struggle.
I told 11:15 a couple people, and they were talking about the same thing. How good it's been to the bench of guys that we have to get to teach, but they're excited that, you were back. I was like, oh, you ready? And I said, you better be ready today. This is audience participation. You do not get to be quiet on this.
Give me something.
Got to give it. And it was a couple of our people at 11:15 who are always super engaged anyways. I was like, oh, they're going to need you today.
Yeah.
Make sure.
And then he just called them liars.
I did. That's true. I did. That is
when
so
they
true.
did try to get engaged, I'm like, start clapping with them. Nah, you're liars, but I appreciate the effort.
It was a little late at that point. Yeah.
First week back.
So, obviously finishing out the story, Jay, what was your, just thoughts of, kind of putting a bow on this story with John?
So I mentioned it in the message, and I told my wife, as I'm just working through stuff on Saturday night, going through the message again, I'm like, the first half is the thing. Like it's like I would have just loved to have, once we got to that moment where it does begin to sink in of the distinct blessing of being in the new covenant and filled with the Spirit. Like if we would have been able just to stop in that moment and just, I don't know, I'd sing 5 worship songs at that moment and really that was the thing I said, because the second half of this, it does just get a little, it just gets a little, you got to do some work to try to figure out how all the pieces fit together with this parenthetical commentary that Luke throws in here. And then Jesus moves to the rebuking of the leaders and then dropping in the weird little illustration with the pipes and the dirge, and then throwing the proverb at the end with the wisdom and her children, and everybody's scratching their head. And so the back half just takes so much kind of instruction just to kind of fit it all in together so that you can see the thread moving through it. And so I just knew it was going to feel way more academic. And so that was my tension. I'm just like, it's going to feel like 2 sermons. And the first half is the one I really want to preach. That was kind of the way I felt. But
yeah.
Well, it's funny when you said that. I taught Discovering Quad City at the 9:30, and that's always part of what we talk about when it's the first core value is when our first core value, we teach the Bible. Yeah. And it's like, it actually, when we go line by line, the way that we do with most of our sermon series, it forces us to teach the things that we actually don't want to probably go up there and teach, or the things we wouldn't think about teaching. And so I had just gotten done saying that, and then I was looking, there was a couple that had gone to Discovering Quad City. They were in the 11:15. I saw them a little bit ahead of me. And you basically said, you're like, I wish I could just stop there, but this is what we do. We're going to keep going through it line by line. So it just felt like us.
Yep.
Yeah. Because it'd been weird. Like, well, we could have not taught the rest of it, right? But it'd been weird to come back this week and probably teach that other section because you need the content. I mean, we could have done it, right? Yeah. But we just broke it up how we broke it up. So I was trying to figure out those sermon breaks. But anything you had added this week? Anything you had to cut that you wish you could have kept in there?
No. Again, we had a question that came in today, and we'll get to on verse 35. So apparently, again, if anything, you try to bring some more clarity to this back half. It does just get a little bit, what are we doing? What's he talking about? And so it just feels a little more like it just needs a little more academic explanation to try to grasp. And so we'll have to do a little bit of that today.
Perfect. Well, with that, here's the question. So this is from Diana. And so she asked, hey, please explain verse 35. I could not reconcile what you were saying with what I was reading. And she got a second question, but I'll let you answer the first one, and then we'll come back and hit the second one. Yeah,
Diana, you're right. It is you really got to try to dig in to try to figure out how does this fit. So again, verse 35, just so everybody remembers, it is that little proverb that Jesus throws in at the end. So he has this whole conversation about John the Baptist, first lifting him up and reminding the crowd how great he was. And then he starts to rebuke the leaders who had rejected John and thus were rejecting Jesus. And then Jesus throws this line in at the end, verse 35. But wisdom is proved right by all her children. So that's the proverb, and that's the mic drop. That's where this whole encounter ends. It's just Jesus saying that. And so, Diana, you can go dig around and try to figure out. It seems to me that the thing that Jesus is simply saying is, you can see how wise what we do and believe and say. You can understand the wisdom of something by looking at what it produces. So think of it this way. Like if you had a financial plan, all right, you got a budget that you're trying to keep and an investment strategy, and you say, is this a wise strategy? And the answer is, well, see what it produces. So if you follow this budgeting plan and this investment strategy for 5 years and your net worth is 10x in that 5 years, then yeah, it was a wise financial situation. But if you get in 5 years and you're broker than ever and you're in debt and it didn't work and you lost your money, then you'd say, yeah, that wasn't wise. You can see what it produced and it didn't produce what you hoped it would produce. You buy a house. Is this a smart time to buy a home? Well, we'll see. And that's kind of the answer. We'll know. We'll know in 5 years because we'll see what it produces. Should I take this job? Well, I've got this option or this option. Which one is the best option? Well, we'll see. The wisdom will be proved right by what it produces, by its children. So that's kind of what I think Jesus is pointing to here is these people who had rejected John, what got produced in their life? Well, they end up missing out on the very Messiah that they claimed to have longed for. And those who did receive John's message, what got produced for them? Well, they had sins forgiven and sicknesses healed and the dead were raised and all of these amazing things that came along with being those who put their faith in Jesus. And so I think what Jesus is saying here to these leaders that he's rebuking, you think you're so smart. Well, your wisdom will be proved out by what gets produced. And you think these people over here are real dumb because they followed after John and now they're following after me. And wisdom will be proved out by looking at the children when they are produced. So I think that's where it is, and hopefully that makes sense, Diana. I don't know of a better way to help flesh that out. Maybe you guys got to.
Yeah, I was just going to say. So Matthew, this whole story is in Matthew as well, and so Matthew changes a little bit. It's Matthew 11, the end of 19. But wisdom is proved right, and then he changes the end, which is the same meaning though, by her deeds. So instead of children, I think the children part
it does.
But so what happens is, so like what I would say as an ad is, so Proverbs, when you read Proverbs, wisdom is personified, as a female too, right. So that's how Solomon writes it. So that's how Jesus carries it over as well. So like the children is not the right, like literal children, right? It is the deeds piece. It is the fruit is what you're trying to get at. But again, it is the biblical knowledge to know that that's generally how wisdom is talked about. It's talked about as a female with a her, because sometimes you read the first 7 of the Proverbs, first 7 chapters, and you're like, she is that, and you're like, wait, she is. We just got to remember that was just the context of how they did it. They personified it, and so it does help. So you go, oh, that's why Jesus would say it like this, because that's what their culture was used to. And so it is not like a literal in a way, like it's, like wisdom can't have children. It's wisdom. Right. You know what I mean? Like, so I get it. That does make it kind of confusing, but in the whole grand, part of scripture, it helps to make it make a little more sense.
Yeah. How many more hours did you spend in commentaries on this sermon than you typically do?
Not much. Okay. So it wasn't about commentary, but I will tell you this. We came out of our sermon planning. So again, I finished my message last week and sent it off to our team. They read through it. I bet for that last section, I probably spent an extra 3 to 5 hours just on that last section. So when I went to our sermon planning meeting and we had several of our teammates who read through it and they were like, it's just not clear. There's just something missing. And I had some lines in there that just weren't landing in the way that I had hoped. So because of that, I had to go back and literally we're typically on Wednesday afternoon, I'm writing the sermon for the next week. I didn't get to do that this past Sunday. This last Wednesday, I just spent another 3 to 5 hours trying to nail this part in, because I knew this is just a weird little saying that doesn't have a lot of contextual analogies for us. And so I knew that there would be people like Diana who would say, I don't understand. And so for the sake of our sermon planning team, we only got one email and not 50, because even our sermon planning team were like, we don't get it. What are you trying to say? Make it more clear. Then I would speak it verbally to our team, and they would say, well, then say that, not what you've written here. So we try to clear it up. But again, it's just a weird little proverb, and Jesus just drops it in here right at the end. It is a little bit different, but I don't think it was much more by way of commentary. It was a lot more trying to get to clarity.
Sure. Because it was like almost every line on that back half you had to actually explain. You can't just assume that people know and pull an application from it. You actually have to explain it.
You have to, And that was why I felt a little bit of that tension of the emotive pinnacle of this text is, the place where he says, yet the least in the kingdom is even greater than John. Like that is and then you have to kind of go into that more academic line by line explanation. So
great. Yeah. All right. So second question, unless there's anything we want to add.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Second question is also off topic. Diana says, how do we know we're studying in year 2 of Jesus's ministry? So, just context for those of you all who have forgotten when we started this whole series, and we said we're going to be breaking Luke down in the early years, year 1 of Luke's ministry, year 2 of Luke's ministry.
Jesus'
ministry, year 3 of Jesus's ministry, and then what we would, and most people refer to it as the Passion Week, which is the last week of Jesus' life before his death, burial, resurrection. So Diana is trying to figure out how, Jason, we made that decision. What did we do to kind of determine, this is probably year 2 of the ministry of Jesus.
Yeah, and the term that you use there is correct. Probably. There is no definitive. Luke doesn't draw a line in it. Nobody draws a line in it. The basic understanding of the timeline of Jesus' ministry is based upon the biblical markers primarily of the Passovers. Like there are like 3 different Passover. If you lay the Gospels collectively, there's a thing called the harmony of the gospel where you take all 4 of them and you kind of lay them all side by side and you kind of put them on a timeline and you're using all 4 of them together. Now, we don't teach that way because each one of these authors is trying to accomplish something different to a different audience. Yeah. And so we don't teach them that way, but you can take all 4 of them and kind of lay them over top of each other and harmonize them. And you'll begin to see where different, stories line up in the timeline. And so when you do that, there are 2 definitive Passovers that we know of that Jesus attends in Jerusalem. There's one more feast. Some think it's Passover. Some think it could be a different feast. And so there's a little bit of a question mark on the third one. But that's kind of the rough outline is so we say Jesus went to Jerusalem for at least 2, maybe 3 different major feasts. And so that kind of becomes the timeline of where we get this kind of 3-year. Mm-hmm. There are others who would make an argument that it was only 2 years. That is a minority view, but there are some who make that claim. But it's all based upon how many major feasts or Passovers Jesus attends during his earthly ministry. And so with that, John really makes it a little more clear. John does a better job even than Luke. And so again, it's part of the harmony. There's this one line, let me see if I can find it here, that in the book of Luke that we just kind of read and we didn't really talk about it. But if you go back to Luke chapter 4, everything that we have been focused on in the life, if you've been studying this series, is Jesus has just been in Galilee. He went off into the desert, right? And he did his 40 days in the wilderness, and then he just went back into Galilee. Luke doesn't really tell us about anything else, except in Luke chapter 4, in verse 44, he adds this one line, and he kept on preaching in the synagogues of
Judea.
And so John, in his gospel, gives us a whole lot of what happened in Judea. There was a lot that happened while Jesus was in and around Jerusalem. And that may have been one of the Passovers that he attended. It was in John, it's not in Luke. And so, but we don't have any of the details in Luke. Luke just kind of skips that. That could have been 6 months down just preaching around there. So we just don't know. But again, when you lay them all beside each other,
I think Matthew talks a little bit more too about that, which would make sense, right? Because
he's based out of because his Jewish But Luke doesn't. He just kind of skips it. He throws in this one line about Jesus' Judean ministry. We just buzzed right past it, right? We just get that one line, and the very next thing he's back up in Caesarea. I'm sorry, not Caesarea. He's back up in Capernaum calling his first disciples. So. We just skipped it.
Yeah, it wasn't a car ride in the afternoon, right? Yeah, it was a lot of time.
Yeah.
So for context too, and Luke seems to give the most details of Jesus's early years.
Yes,
that's why Luke is so great, because it talks about the interactions at the temple. Corey, I remember you taught that one with the prophet.
Simeon
and Simeon, yeah.
Simeon and Anna.
Yeah, so you have that, you don't have that in the other Gospels, right? So you have more of Jesus's early life there, and then you have what we would define as the baptism of Jesus and the handing over, right? You kind of saw the John to Jesus handover, right? Here you go. So that's when we said year one began. To your point, year two is he calls his first kind of apostles. He calls the apostles out of the disciples. Year three is in Luke 9:51, and again, it's just a really small sentence. As the time approached for him to be taken up to heaven, Jesus resolutely set out for Jerusalem. So again, it's another reason. Again, what we know is, like you said, why is Jesus going to Jerusalem? It is the Passover. It is those times. And so again, we see Jesus kind of going off again to go and do that thing. And so would you just read it, you would just skip it. Because that just seems like he's going to Jerusalem. Well, what does that mean? I don't understand.
It's a turning point in the book. This is where Jesus is headed to the cross, and he knows it.
Yeah. And then Luke writes 14 more chapters.
Yes.
But it's fine. Yeah. And then the last one is, again, we would mark the Passion Week by the triumphal entry. Right. Which everybody knows. That's the easiest one to define for everyone. I think every gospel actually kind of says, interesting enough, John's whole gospel is that back week. Like, he writes most of it on the back week, which is really interesting. So again, that's why probably this is what it is. Again, you could find somebody who probably says something different than what we said. This is just helpful for us to, I think, and for maybe people to be able to place it into these years that kind of gives it a little context, and for us to kind of denote some changes maybe in what Jesus is doing and kind of his focus, and be able to see it this way. So
so we, again, as Josh tried to explain, that last verse that I read in chapter 4 verse 44, we would put that at the very end of his first year of ministry, and then chapter 5 is the beginning of the second with the calling of the apostles, and then to your point, that chapter 9 is where he turns his face. And that's, I think, that one of the old translators turns his face resolutely to Jerusalem. Like, he's keyed in now. He knows where he's headed toward the end.
Yeah. So
do you think that's why the Bible publishers made that chapter 5?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Interesting.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know. That'd be, but that's what's interesting is we didn't even, so we said year 2 began in the middle of chapter 6, though.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, we did with the calling of the apostles.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry. Yes, the choosing of the apostles, not the calling of the disciples. You're right. That's right. You are correct.
Yeah, so he kind of goes up there. He finishes out year 1. He comes back and it's
chooses his apostles. That's right. Not the disciples.
Yeah.
The setting aside the apostles. That's right.
And even how Luke writes, it's been really interesting, right? Like what's happened in year 1, then what's kind of happening in year 2, and then what happens in year 3, right? It's all really different how you kind of place it together. So, all right, sweet. Well, anything else to add, gentlemen, from our text this weekend, or anything that you've kind of seen as we've been just walking through the book of Luke here over the last 7 months, or as Corey said, trudging through the book of Luke.
Listen,
Did I say that?
You did. It was really funny. We made fun of
You
you for
did
it.
in your intro.
Just trudging through
It's a long series. It's a good series.
through the Gospel of Luke.
I will just say, when I'm sitting there working through my sermon on Saturday night with my wife there, and I did look over and say, I really want to preach the one that I wrote this week, not the one that I wrote last week. Like the one that we're going to be hitting on this week is one of my favorite stories. It is one of the most, maybe the most intimate moments that you see Jesus have with a person, in my opinion. And so I think it's a powerful picture of the love and grace and mercy and tenderness of Jesus that we're going to get to see this week. So I'm stoked about preaching on Sunday.
So it's Luke 7:36 is where we started this week, right?
Yep.
You can read the story. It's, again, probably one that many people know.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure we're going to hear something always that we didn't know, which is always the cool thing about getting to hear you teach. So, yeah, looking forward to it as well. All right, well, that's all we have for today. Thanks for listening. See you on Sunday.